Would you like fries for that?
Well, hello. My name is Kat, and this is Jumpstand Podcast. Tonight we've got a guest, special guest. Her name is Kelsey. We'll be talking about the clinical supply chain and basically global supply chain. I expect that this talk is going to be extremely interesting, so please stay with us. Hi, Kels. I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming.
I am so excited. This is going to be fun.
It's great. Okay, Kels, share what you are doing for actually life and work all together. Who you are.
Yeah.
And what is your specialization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in the pharma industry for a little over 10 years now. I started in a clinical technology company. They kind of caught me right out of university. And then that kind of, clinical supplies finds you. That's what I usually say. And so then I found myself in that for the past 10 years. It's been quite a ride. I was in the US mostly and until about a year ago when I moved to Vienna.
Great.
To explore other adventures. But
Where in the US?
In Northeast Philadelphia.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, and so a little pharma hub there. So it's
Not bad.
yeah. But specifically, as you said, I was working in the global clinical supply chain. So kind of what our focus is to make the drugs happen for the clinical trials. And so you have the sponsor drugs by the pharma companies. You have the drugs that get used in the trial from off the market that you have to purchase. And so we kind of handle the end-to-end clinical supply chain as most of the functions that I've been a part of, and kind of the strategy behind that. Obviously, supply chain in general in the past, I'd say kind of started in 2017, was getting
almost
hit.
10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was getting hit with we need to start digitalizing things.
Yeah.
And so it started then. Pharma tends to be a little bit conservative, jumping into things, right? A little bit of a dinosaur, I would say.
Yeah, okay, what was the difference, the main one?
They
The
just
structure, processes, or what exactly was
it's a
the
very
struggle?
regulated industry,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And so there's a lot of caution in adopting new technologies and trying things new. If this is working, why fix it? Because it's such a pain in the butt to validate things and make sure that it's doing right in the end goal by the patients, right?
So do you think it doesn't have any sense in that, or does it make sense, actually?
I think it absolutely makes sense
sure.
because, in the end, we're trying to get medications to people that need it, and sometimes it's taking years.
Too long.
Decade.
Were you involved in this COVID-19 thing, right?
Certainly. and interestingly enough, is COVID kind of propelled our digitalization, do I call it a journey, adventure? Because we were kind of forced into having to relook at things and because, okay, how do you function in a global supply chain remotely if things are going wrong, if things are off, that you can't go into the office to fax something, to sign a paper, right? And so this, it's kind of interesting to say that it was actually kind of a positive as far
Right.
as this whole digitalization piece.
Well, many people are saying that in their industries, things just got pushed and it was needed somehow.
Yeah. So kind of catch-22 there. But anyway, so specifically with the previous company that I worked with, after the firefighting was done and we made sure everything was in order to continue the supply chain, we started looking at, okay, if something like this happens again, how do we make sure that we're in a place that we can support things remotely, that we can support things, digitally, and then, yes.
Well, what is actually global supply chain? Because from my understanding, I would say that it's something that you are doing in distribution part. But I believe it's overall thing, right? It's procurement part, it's the raw material, then the production itself, and the distribution itself. So what is your part there?
So specifically, the function that I was in is we would manage the strategic planning for the whole process. And so we were sitting and going, okay, you've got the clinical protocols. The scientists put those together and they say, okay, this is the trial we want to run.
Yeah.
Here's how many patients. These are the countries we want to be in. These are the drugs we want to use. And this is the structure of the treatments or the trial.
Yeah.
And so that would be our starting point. And then we would take that and then we would translate that into the supply chain. And so, okay, these are the drugs. How much do we need to purchase by when? You have to consider forecasting. You have to consider how dynamic the forecast is because they have a plan. Okay, we have 35 different countries globally that we're in with these patients. We expect to get this many patients here, that many patients there. Reality hits always, and it could be that, okay, oh my God, now we have twice as many patients as we planned for here, and then nothing here. And so you have to balance the supply chain sometimes in a very short period of time. And okay, well, how do we manage that? And that's, again, okay, we need to start looking at analytics and whatnot. So it's... anyway, and so with this forecasting piece, there's the purchasing, and then you have to file to regulatory authorities as well what you're planning.
The local ones, yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So any of the countries you're going into, you have to submit before you import the product. And then you have to ensure distribution to all the hospitals and clinics that are involved. And we have the system called the IRT system. It started as an interactive voice response system back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's ironically the type of company I started in right out of college. And it used to be just a way for clinics to call and order the drug for the clinical trial. And then it would also handle the randomization, like do you get the placebo or the active, right? It used to handle and kind of collect the data. So this was early technology, fancy stuff back, 15 years ago. And then what these companies have now done is turn into an entire hub. So you see them kind of adding on different modules, right? So we've got forecasting modules. So maybe we can push the drugs right to the different hospitals depending on how many patients they're enrolling at the time, instead of that being a manual pull.
Right.
Little things like this that makes it easier and more attractive for the different physicians to accept having their patients be a part of the clinical trial. It was just one of the many examples where some of this evolution in this specific technology has kind
What
of
are
helped.
the longest, time-wise, what are the longest projects you were dealing with? Because it sounds quite complex, to be honest. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, let's start how many countries, like the biggest projects was?
I think 35 countries, not globally.
No,
and we're talking, So we're talking Asia Pac, Latin America, North America. I mean, really, there was... I think no continent that we didn't touch in that one. That was just one of the specific trials, because some of the later phase trials they're big, right? Because they're trying to test the product in all of the different, they call them markets, right? Or countries.
Right.
Because those countries want data there that they can look at and say, okay, yeah, this is safe, this is good, we see efficacy here, and then we're okay to commercialize it. And so that's kind of the rat race that you'll see happening, I guess, with the clinical supplies, and so.
And how time-wise, how long are the projects of that? Like, if we're talking about 35 different countries, right? Is it going simultaneously, or it's kind of split one after another, and so on? There's some logic behind, for sure. I'm pretty sure, but I believe those type of trials should go quite fast if they just.
They're getting fast now because of technology. We're able to make decisions sooner. 10 years ago, it was very standard to have a 5-year trial.
Okay.
Now we have, you're seeing more common where they're doing what they call enrollment, and that's getting patients into the trial for like 12 to 18 months. And then they're on for 2 years of treatment instead of 4 or 5 years of treatment.
This is insane.
Yeah.
It's such an optimization. Look at that.
Massive.
Wow.
So for companies from a commercial standpoint, right, if we can shorten that, we can get the data quicker, we can get drug to market faster. And so, and it's very competitive. And so with pharma, the faster that you get the patent first.
Yeah. Well, pharma business is quite commercial driven, thing, and I've got my skepticism still inside because I understand that some trials are going, of course, because it's highly needed and their scientists are working for years, to bring up a great medicine. But the others are just commercial, kind of like move here and there, right? And basically, it's not to say make big difference. It does for some countries also and some regions, but basically a small deviation, which probably doesn't make a drug absolutely different, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, this is really cool because basically to operate globally, it's I don't know how we survived before without digitalization and all these big words.
Can't even picture it now, which is insane.
This is really crazy. Yeah. But do you remember exactly when did you have this first time with the word digital or digitalization in your job description at all?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. I think it was a boom, yeah. Everyone was doing that. Was it because of the law? Or it was more because everyone was doing that? Is it like marketing move or, again, the strategy of the company because everyone did that?
It was the strategy of the company to be more competitive, I think. So kind of backing up what I was saying, where they're trying to shorten up the timelines and how do we get, drug to market faster?
Obviously, yeah.
How do we optimize maybe... and this could be a little controversial, not focusing on drugs that might not be marketable, for example. I do want to add a point.
We're coming to that.
That companies are doing actually a pretty good job now of, because of some of the technologies that are available that I'm not so close with. I'm very focused on the supply chain. I have expertise there, but where they can actually focus on some of these maybe not big blockbuster drugs, but some of the more rare diseases, the people that really need something, and they're able to do it at a lower cost, for example. Again, technology, I'm not familiar with how they're doing this,
right.
But then they're able to actually bring some of this into their pipeline, which I think is huge. And it kind of, I hope it continues to go this way so they come across... so it's not big pharma, bad pharma, and yeah.
Well, again, big pharma, bad pharma. It depends. Again, I don't want to announce these big names or give the description, which is kind of like black or white. It's not the case, absolutely not. But I know, of course, that priorities can be split a little bit differently because any organization, if we're talking about pharma includingly, it's a commercial organization. If it would be non-commercial organization, that would be a different talk. So, of course, money might be priority in that, right?
Exactly.
And with digitalization, data. We're talking about data. You said that the collection of data became easier and probably it's never a problem to collect the data. As you remember, we studied that it's a problem to have right data. Yeah. And do you have new specialists in your team specifically working on the data most of the time?
Yeah, so we have an entire new branch of the company, actually, that was brought in. I thought leadership did a good job with that. They introduced a chief technology officer. That was the start. And then it was kind of inspired by one of the functions that we had in my previous company, actually, that came from a small biotech. And they had a digitalization specific group. And their whole focus was data analytics. I think most companies have this. They manage looking at how to optimize things, what tools are we using, making sure the tools are harmonized across the different functions in the organization, which that's a task in itself. So they were able to do a nice small model of this. And when we acquired that company, the people at the company I was at, it was a little bit bigger, more of a medium to large size pharma company, said, that actually, this is working somehow. This is looking good. And so it was our function was almost the pilot for this, right? And so they saw how successful it was and how they enjoyed what occurred, that they pulled it up out of our function into being a global support function. within this company. And so that they moved up under the CTO, and then they had these representatives that were assigned essentially to each business unit.
Right.
And so their job was to sit in this centralized role. And this centralized function would look at what's going on digitally kind of in the ecosystem, what tools are out there, what can work for us, what's going on. And so they would manage this piece. And then they would take these learnings, insights, right? Or I'm sure they were doing presentations for each other on what they would find. And then they'd bring those to the business unit they were responsible for. And I thought this was fantastic because, they're responsible for understanding what the needs are of the business unit, what can be optimized, what tools they could see being here. And then they're taking that back up. So there's a feedback loop. And so then up here, it saves the company money. There's harmonization because if they can all discuss, okay, if we've got 7 of the 10 business functions that can leverage this, great, it's totally worth the investment because nothing's worse than beforehand, I will say, when you're a single business unit and you're trying to you find a technology yourself, let's say, for example, and then you try to get IT to buy in.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, why can't you just use this thing that's here?
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, the thing that's here might not be the best need for us. And then they're not wanting to put finances into something fancier that we're finding, right, on the market.
So you've got this bottom-down kind of like a signal by having this signal still from the down.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's really good.
Yeah, and usually that they would work with a specific business, like a business SME in the function to make sure that everything was aligned. That's where I sat. And so that's kind of where I got.
Sounds really complex. Does it work? Honestly speaking.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
complicated.
Cool.
It's a lot of juggling that goes in with it, but I think, I do.
For me, pharma never been the business which is quite agile, but what you're saying right now, it's very, very flexible.
They're trying. I would say I think it's still a work in progress, especially some other colleagues I've talked to from other companies are just starting that journey. They're just starting to look at how do we get this across the company, little pockets, right? They haven't harnessed it yet. Right. And so what I love that I got to experience with my last company is that they harnessed it and they were doing something with it. And it was not without its pitfalls, right? Because operations, it moves fast. There's always something going wrong. They're always short-staffed. So how do you balance transforming things and getting people to onboard to new technologies when, this is working. Why do we need to adopt this new thing? And I can't learn or change things right now. I don't have the bandwidth for this. And that was a very, very difficult thing to balance. I think.
People, basically.
Yeah.
People, it's the most complex things to manage and to convince. Basically, here and there,
Exactly.
But you said that you're working in Austria right now. I'm very happy to have you here. I know that you changed the city recently, which is very sad. However, do you feel the difference working in Europe or in the States? What is the difference? Tell me.
I think the States is a very has a bit of a risk or appetite for risk. That's what I would say. And so even in some of these more dinosaur industries, slow to move, or jump on things. I see a lot of like, let's try it, let's do this, and then we'll figure it out as we go. This more, I think, agile mindset, right? And that's kind of, I didn't think it was so ingrained, I think, in the culture there until I moved here. And here it's a little bit more, okay, let's observe, let's see how other people do it, and maybe then we'll invest when we won't be the ones that are kind of being the front runners. And this is just general. Obviously, there's pockets of people and that I see that are trying to change that and trying to get involved in things. Through the MBA, of course, is surrounded by people that have this mindset, right? But then I've watched some people even within the class kind of have this transformation, right? In the beginning where they're having a kind of a more of a cautious, okay, well, here's all the things that could go wrong. and so we shouldn't do it mindset. And then more towards the end going like, oh, okay, all right, now I understand you're not going to know until you actually give it a shot. And so I think I would say that's probably the biggest difference. Yeah.
Well, probably it's because of the, it's not about culture. Well, states, capitalistics, the economics works differently, completely differently. It's kind of like a cycle, right? You need to risk, try, put a lot. So then the circle or the wheel will be pushed.
Yeah.
Here it's a little bit different. It's less maybe sources or less people also, right? Economics works a little bit differently also. And of course, the observation makes sense completely, but I was thinking maybe industry would be not affected that much, but it seems to be that it is affected geographically. If you're based here, you work this way, even though you work in different countries. Again, launching, it's absolutely different countries, correct?
Yep.
But the taking the new product, I believe, or any type of new move or changing the company, it takes longer than there.
Yeah.
I remember working in the States, it was always like that.
Yeah, which
Short pitches, you've got the budget, just go for it. Yeah, that's a true.
I think you end up wasting more finances that way.
Exactly.
So I think
many losses, but the income or probably profit is higher at the end of the
risk, high
day.
reward, right?
Yeah.
So,
And my next question is personal. What do you think about Trump? No, I'm joking. We're not going. We're not going this direction.
we'll do that over a drink.
Yes, a little bit later without the cameras and so on. Well, I wanted to ask you about your position in general, because I checked it on LinkedIn, and you've got, how does it sound? Like exact job position name of yours. Do you remember? I can open the LinkedIn.
You might have to remind me, I think.
Let's check. So,
My headline or the position?
it's a position. I think it's a position.
Okay.
So,
If it's the one for my...
global clinical supply and digitalization strategy. Yes. It's a headline.
Yes.
And the position itself, external operations manager. So I was more curious about this global clinical supply chain. That's clear.
Yep.
Digitalization strategy. Yep. Very confusing. Because on one same thing, it means that you are sitting all together and trying to figure out how the process of digitalizing everything in the strategy going to be implemented, or how the strategy of digitalization of the whole company going to look like, or it's implementing digital or digitalization in general or to the strategy of the whole company. So it's it's a little bit different kind of like approach, and I'm always confused because since recent, maybe from the last year, everyone has digitalization word in their position bio or whatever, right? Or AI or digitalization, something like that. Depends on the industry. So
Self-marketing.
that's good that you said that. But I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel? What exactly you feel in your everyday work? Not digital, but how digitalization helps you or support you, or what do you do digital that much?
Why digital?
Why digital, right? Because it's a job description. It's basically, it's kind of like you providing this type of expertise services or whatever, right? So what is digital there?
So I'm going to start broader, and then you can redirect me to whichever avenue of that you want me to go into. I ended up in it by accident. And so I was always looking for ways to optimize, right? Because I'm an impatient person and I like to get things done quickly. And and so I would get frustrated if things were too, I'm not thinking of the word right now, but mundane and anyway, so I was always looking for this. And when at my previous company, when we acquired the other company I was talking about earlier, and they came with this digitalization group, stars in my eyes, right? I was like, oh, this is cool. What is this? What are you guys doing? And they did some presentation on some of the technologies that they had and platforms that they were working on. And I immediately I reached out to them and I said, I want to know what you're doing. I want to get involved. What do you need help with? I made it a part of my job.
Because it was new or because it was efficient? What was the reason? Okay.
Both. So shiny new toy for sure. Yeah.
Young heart,
He always-
eager to work. Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to be involved in everything at that point. So, and I was already doing a lot of work helping to onboard them into our processes. And so then I had already kind of put myself in that position. And then our VP, because it was top down, right? We were driving the digitalization of the previous company, and all the business functions had to roll out a plan, put a roadmap together, and all this stuff. We hired this fantastic external company actually to come put this together for us. And so I ended up working really closely with them as the business SME.
That's nice.
And that's how I ended up getting like hooked into it. And then I was really involved for the next few years after that. And these guys came in and they were the ones really they knew the tools, they understood, like Scrum and all of these
terms,
frameworks and whatnot to get these projects off the ground. And so what they did is they they looked at all of the processes. None of the processes were mapped, of course. Everything's sitting in a standard operating procedure document or whatever. Anyway, and so they got this all on paper, right? So they said, okay, here's this. They surveyed, they talked to people, who knew where the gaps were. A lot of that came up through me. And then they turned all of this into a roadmap first. And they said, okay, this is where you are now. This is where we see you in 5 years. And here's the stages. And they put the stage gates together, which is not necessarily agile, but you get the point. It's the overall map. Anyway, and then they were able to help prioritize this transformation for us, because it's when you have so much that you want to do and you want to change, it's what's actually tangible, what's not tangible, and we need to put that on the wish list, what's tangible, but maybe we need more buy-in, et cetera. And so they kind of had like a little quadrants that they took all these I guess I'll call it initiatives, projects. And then they took the overall roadmap and they placed all these projects in
project
there.
management office. So basically they're kind of like making the map for the project management.
Yeah, exactly. And then they took if we were to look at a system that we had, okay, is this system still going to be relevant? Do we sunset that? Do we take this and then transition it into a new technology? What does that look like? Let's say that they decided to go to, say they decided to stay with a certain technology. Okay, well, let's
implement it or merge it together with a system or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. Or improve it in some way, because that's going to be financially the most feasible, for example. And then they would put together, okay, here's current state. Then you'd have to have the change management. Change management
is very complex.
And something that is completely underestimated with these digital transformations and digital journeys. It's very underestimated and a hard thing to balance, because even if you put this on paper, again, there's the reality of the situation. There's the people aspect.
Exactly.
And the people, you put this nice, pretty package
Yeah.
together. Here you go. Okay, great. And everyone's going like, okay, and how are we going to, who's going to do this?
Well, it's a lot of, I actually, during the change management, in my experience, met a lot of resistance. It's not even about the, how. It's like, no, it's better before and now it's better. That's it. To convince people is quite complicated. That's why, of course, the management or top management should push it down, in my opinion, at least, right? And it should be a part either of the vision of the company, transformation or digitalization transformation or whatever, you can call it whatever, but it should be changed, or it should be very visible strategy for the whole company.
Yeah.
Which is quite a complex things to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I understand what you were facing. However, it's very impressive that it took quite a short period of time, to be honest, to make this jump. And what you're sharing right now, I hear that you're dealing or you're working in a very, let's say, high-tech company, which is digitalized on the more or less the same time frame as expected for today's perspective, because most companies in Europe, especially, with all the respect, unfortunately, they didn't even start the process.
I see some that are just starting now.
Yeah.
And just starting.
Do you feel that
Yeah.
they are behind or they, okay, like seriously behind?
Yeah.
Do you think that they will be able to keep up and survive?
Yeah, I think so, in pharma at least.
Yeah, the big companies probably, that's why.
Yeah, I think exactly. They've
Yeah.
got, I just think that if they want to continue to be in the spot that they're at,
Yeah.
that they need to.
Yeah. Well, let's go in the personal question. I think it's amazing. So, do you actually take drugs? I mean, in the way of when you're sick, or you've got fever or something like that. Do you go immediately to take drugs, or you keep your body, pushing against this?
You're gonna laugh. I'm not a huge drug taker. The only thing that I keep on hand is ibuprofen.
Okay, I've got the same.
Yeah.
And I am trying to bring it all the time from the States.
Yeah.
Because with all the respect, in Europe, unfortunately, it's not strong enough.
Yeah, and I think, do you need a prescription for it here?
Exactly,
Maybe.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So,
Sorry, we're not trying to, transport the drugs. It's just a small amount, just for your family use. Okay.
Yes.
From time to time, no. But it's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, so my perspective on this is I actually tend to be a little bit on the
drugs free.
what's the word I'm like? Well, yeah, like more on the homeopathic side of
trying
things,
to
I
keep
think,
myself sober.
which is oddly ironic. But I have people close to me who are benefiting from commercial products, right? And so,
well, I only think that most of 70% probably of the drugs that we've got in the pharmacies, in my opinion, just commercial thing. And I actually learned that in Europe, that's better to to work on your immune system and to prepare or develop the resistance somehow.
Yeah.
Because before I was like, I've got a little bit of fever, the drug. I've got a little bit of pain. Let's do it. You just don't wait.
Yeah.
The speed of life is so fast, you can't afford to be sick, something like that. Now I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's age related. I don't know.
I think it could be a little bit. I think in the past, sometimes I wouldn't take it soon enough. I would wait, and then I'm like, oh, I still feel like crap. And before you know it, it's been like multiple days, and then I take the ibuprofen or whatever, the cold medicine. Go, oh, maybe I should have taken. And then boom, better. It's like, maybe I should do this more often, sooner.
Yeah, let's not torture yourself. Well, guys, actually, you should comment if you are taking drugs right away, or you're not a big fan of that. Try to make it more natural and so on. Well, sometimes I think that drugs and not drugs, alcohol and cigarettes help more, but yeah, it's not the case anymore.
We have more options now.
Actually, yes. I see some things that are kind of they are covered as a very nice marketing for example, biohacking, longevity thing, but it's obviously either nothing.
This is huge.
Yeah, or it's something which it's like a serious drug, just covered by that. However, most of the things, it's really very affordable and possible things, but they are not necessary actually, and there is no proof that it's gonna prolong your life and so on.
Yeah.
It just feels nice to be part of the community, but people really believe. And I think, what do you think about belief? I think that when you believe in something,
Placebo, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
so it might work really positive for you.
Yeah.
What do you think about biohacking and all that concept?
So you know that I'm big into wellness, and I'm hoping to start to go in that direction a little bit more in a few years here. But whether it's something that you're taking the time to take care of yourself, maybe that's all it is. If it's bringing your cortisol down, it's bringing your stress down.
Yeah, nervous system also is getting better. Yeah.
Nervous system regulation, huge. This is more what I see. Are there clinical trials ongoing for this stuff that I haven't, to be frank, looked into or not? But I am intrigued by this stuff. I like to test things and try things, and because I kind of agree, if you're healthy from the start instead of putting Band-Aids on it. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I try it. I don't put my money towards it too much right now at the moment, but yeah,
well, it's quite expensive. That's true.
It's expensive right now because a lot of it's new. A lot of it gets written off as a fad, or but if it's something that makes you feel better and mentally you're feeling better, then it goes back to the placebo effect. Then you're gonna feel like, oh, great, I'm starting the day, I'm being more productive, I'm doing this, and
well, I've done some things.
Mindset shift, really, if that's all it is. But,
yeah, that's true. I've done some things. I was trying to go through all this. Well, it's chemistry, first of all, right? So if you understand how your hormones are working in your body, then you can adjust. Of course, some things, they work better for you. Some things, they don't. And they're going to work better for others. And I was trying to go into this longevity topic a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been at WeBorn, this cold plunges thing. I trust in that. I believe in it a lot because I feel the result right away. However, I also read a lot that if you do the cold plunges in the mornings, this is very unhealthy. So basically,
because your cortisol is already high.
Exactly. And it's also very bad for blood vessels. You can get a heart attack. You would not even feel it right away. You might feel it or get it only in a few days afterwards or something like that. I'm just faking it out. But I've heard that many sporty people, they actually had a problem with that only because they were taking these plunges in the mornings, right? But before you get there, before you got this knowledge, you try different things with you, right? And you might be also wrong. That's what makes it unhealthy, but it's only your responsibility. I tried also cryo cameras. Everyone says that you've got such...
The cryotherapy?
It's cryocams, yeah. So you're going to the cryo camera or some kind of like the box, have like the room.
I've done the room, the freeze dry box.
Yeah, it looks like... It's like Solaris, but it's not. It's a cold cryo thing. So you enter there for I think 3 minutes or something like the max.
I've done this, yeah.
And I've heard people were saying, friends of mine who do a lot of sport, really very very sporty. They were saying that recovery, it's like that. You don't have sore muscles. You recover really immediately and so on. I do sport too. And I've got sore muscles, but I've tried it. I think I did around 15 sessions per row. And I didn't feel difference. I was like, why do I come here? Why do we do that? I just don't understand, right?
Yeah, and why did it work for the other people?
Yeah, but you tried that, right?
Yeah, and it certainly shocked my system, and I think that was the most that I got out of it. And I only went once.
Yeah,
but so
well, yeah, it's not easy. That's why I think that the marketing behind that, it's just marvelous. Because it's huge. We've got we've got by Jenna a chain here, right?
Yep.
It's getting it's huge. And that's the headquarters here, I guess. Yeah, I think they are Austrians. And it's a very, very interesting concept. I trust everything they sell. So yeah, guys, if you didn't try it, just go and try it because it makes sense completely. They've got also this infrared lamps.
The red light therapy and
It's a lot of things which might be of interest, probably for really people who are preparing themselves for Ironman, like marathons, and so on.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Endurance athletes.
Yeah, for people like me, sulky and old, it's not. It's not working that well, guys. It's not working. It doesn't. I don't feel younger. I don't feel that my life is gonna last longer. Not at all. Really, not at all. And it's a huge struggle. For me.
Maybe it's, you feel like you're doing something about it. Yeah. And that's nice. True. And it is. It's good. I kind of, just wellness in general, just going and doing something for yourself. And if it's a nice quiet time, whatever, time to think, time to shut off your brain. I mean, I think that in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you also how your workday looks like. But I think we'll jump to another question. And it's quite usual already in this podcast. I ask the guests to share the advice, to give an advice for people who are working in your industry. And they are just at the beginning, for example, at the beginning of the digital transformation stage, or maybe they're just 21 years old and they are at the very beginning of their career in general. Do you have any advice for those? How to proceed, what to look at, how to react, act, and so on?
I want to bring up something maybe I haven't already. Maybe I'll go with this because this is the thing I find myself actually, bringing up a lot, is don't underestimate the amount of work and pre-work that goes into getting the results you want out of the transformation. What do I mean by that? Because that was a big...
Let's go into
exactly.
conversation then.
So one example, and my main example is we had this platform that we wanted to, I'll make it sound fancy, revolutionize, right? It was going to be our all-in-one platform that was going to collect all of the data in one spot. It's going to analyze for us. It's going to suggest adjustments to our supply chain. It's going to flag risks for us. It's going to tell us here's the risk and here's what we think you should do about it. Like, this kind of thing. And this was a passion project for a few of us at the last company. But, this sounds great and shiny and fun, but then there's actually doing it. And you think, this is something that we can get off the ground in, maybe 2 years, and then 3 years goes by and you run into this problem and that problem and that problem. And these problems are what I was bringing up just now. Data health is a huge problem for anything digital.
It's crazy thing. I don't even know how it's possible to make that, but yeah.
Because all of the processes that came beforehand were not in the mind of data consistency that can feed into things. And so these results you're getting from whatever bot or analytics platform or dashboard, right? Can you trust those results? And so that was something that we really struggled with, because especially when you're dealing with something as impactful as getting drugs to sick people, you need to make sure that you can trust the data.
Absolutely.
And because nothing is worse, like our whole goal is to make sure that patient gets their drug on the day they come for their visit. Because can you imagine? Patient comes in, maybe they traveled 6 hours. This is something that happens. They had to get a hotel room the night before, and they come in for their visit because they're coming specifically for this clinical trial. They show up, the drug's not there.
I understand.
We can't have that. And so everything upstream, that's why everyone's so careful. So this data health issue, everything's fragmented, okay? And then you have, what ended up happening is we had our module projects, and so this was more towards the system. Does the front end work? Does it look good? Et cetera. Then we had our business projects, which were, okay, in order for this to work, here's the business upstream changes that need to happen, because sometimes how it was existing was not working for the end result. And then the other one was data projects. And that was, okay, here's what needs to change about the data in order for it to come in and be healthy for the output.
This is crazy. That's a lot.
Yeah. And so what started as just this platform project exploded into all this entire ecosystem of projects to make this happen. And, it's hard to keep that momentum and to keep the people engaged, to keep the change management going, right? Because you show the shiny thing, this is where we're going, this is what's happening. It's taking longer. And so keep your people engaged, factor that into your change management plan. Get your people that are champions. I hate using that word. It's such a corporate term. But get the people that are enthusiastic, excited about that. Keep them on the project, because those are the people that will keep it alive with the naysayers and the people that will inevitably and always be there. And how do you keep this driving while you get all this back end stuff fixed? Because this data project could take, you think, oh yeah, no, this is quick. We just talk to the other functional area where the data's coming from and get them to change their business process. Yeah, okay, they like come on and they say, okay, well, what's in it for me?
Right.
And so because really, if we're the only ones that benefit, so don't underestimate also the complexity of the dynamics if you're working, and this is coming from a larger company, with many stakeholders.
How do you think the global supply system is going to change in 3-5 years? Do you feel that there is going to be, because right now we are in this constant revolution.
Yeah.
Digital revolution, AI agents are the name of this year, 2026, right? So we are driven by absolutely different type of artificial intelligence systems. All the businesses are restructuring right now. Economics also restructuring based on that. From the global supply chain, we're talking only about the clinical trials or the pharma industry. How do you think it's going to change in 3-5 years?
I have no idea. I can tell you where I hope to see it go.
Yeah.
Maybe. What I hope that this ends up helping with is some of the bureaucratic stuff. That's coming with moving things across borders, with getting things registered. That's one aspect that I hope improves, right? Because I think some stuff is still very manual, and it's going to take time on a global scale to get it to get more kind of countries on this level, right? Because I think, all right, we've got the front runners that they're done, they're digital, they're good, very quick process for this end-to-end piece, and then the other countries that they're just not, and which is fine, and it's going to take time. And so I hope to see that more and more globally, more and more countries are kind of coming on to this. And then I would say hopefully, just the accuracy of the supply chain. And one thing that one of my former colleagues was working on was on the environmental side of things, right? So we're pushing stuff all over the place. Companies are conscious of it. A lot of these companies are having the ESG metrics, right, and everything, and whether, they're just putting it up there because it looks good or not. Most of the companies I've worked for, I actually see them having functions that their sole focus is this. And so, we have all this technology coming. There has to be something that's going to, help the world as it's burning. Yeah, exactly. This is my Miss America speech here.
This is always like that. You've got something draining here, right? You're trying to plug that.
It's going to save the world, I hope, in 5 years.
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah. So really, these are like the two biggest impacts, and it almost sounds lame. So administrative things, environmental factors.
Well, do you have any ambitions in your work? Do you have any ambitions for the following 3-5 years, or you want to more or less stay at the same position?
Right now, I'm kind of focused on potentially starting my own business. So that's a whole different track. I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But
well, we'll come back with the questions in the new podcast with Kelsey when the business is already running.
Yeah, exactly. For right now, I've started in a new company, and here I would like to bring the learnings that I had from my previous experience into this organization. And so I think now that's going to be my focus. And I've already kind of gotten involved a little bit with some of the digital guys and started the conversations there. And I think it's still a little too early. I'm seeing compared to the company I was at previously. But I hope to stay involved and keep things, help get things fast and simple.
I wish you all the luck, Kelsey, with that, because it's challenging, of course, but quite exciting. Yeah. And you've got all the expertise in this area. I think you should, of course, go for it. We are at the stage when things are twisting and there are newcomers. The youngsters are coming into the business, right? And I believe that they will take over this manual work that we are doing right now. And now our role is getting more and more to educate So if you're gonna get that,
and take the guys that have the energy, and then they can do the running around and do exactly.
so it's just leg work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's normal, I think, and natural kind of like conversion of things. So
Yeah.
I wish you all the luck. Thank you again for being with us tonight, because it was quite talk that I expected to have exactly that exciting as we did it. And thank you for your knowledge. If you want to say something to the listeners, I don't know, stay positive, or the last word, that's your show time. Just go for it.
And this is the part where I'm going to blank out because
Oh, sounds good. Thank
God,
you
yeah.
for being here. Thank you for coming and be part of it. Thanks a lot.
thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thanks.